everyone, and welcome to an Americans for Limited Government live stream. Rick Manning is joining us today. And Rick, what we want to talk about today is a guest column that you had in Town Hall that just ran this morning. And let me pull that screen up so people can see what we're talking about. Because it's a really great column, and I think people are going to like it. Why don't you just tell us what the title is and just briefly what it is about?
Yeah, the title is Civil Disobedience, American Style. Look at who is awake now. And it's talking about the phenomenon we're seeing around the country of people taking a stand, who are getting involved, who are actually pushing for freedom far more than their representatives in Washington, D.C. are. Tries to explain it a little bit, but also tries to give people who are out there a sense that they're part of something bigger, and hopefully send a message to those who are reading it that they better start listening what the people are saying and end this vax mandate nonsense and a lot of the other things that are going on. So in fact, America can go back to work and go back to normal.
And Rick, one of the things that you reference in your piece is the Let's Go Brandon chant that's really going viral. Hopefully most of you know what this is in reference to. I'm going to go ahead and play a short video and we can react to that. So stand by while I get this video.
Joe Biden! 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 Go Brandon! Let's go Brandon!
Help kick this thing off. All right, guys, ready? In 3, 2, 1.
Drivers, start your engine. Let's go, Brandon.
But hey, I watch Fox News because it's America. It's my America. It's a real station telling the real truth every day. And by the way, let's go, Brandon.
Okay, all right. He's a big college football fan. What are you going to do? All right, back to you guys.
Let's go, Brandon!
So Rick, we've all been seeing this. I think most of us are aware of the Let's Go Brandon chants, as that was a montage put together by Sky News out of Great Britain. And that video points out that this has now gone sort of viral worldwide. It is not just limited to the United States anymore. And you referenced that in your town hall piece. What is happening? What is this Let's Go Brandon movement? What's the sort of larger meaning of it?
Well, the meaning of it is people have had enough. This has become a three-word way of saying enough is enough. We're going to do what we want to do, and the federal government needs to get out of the way. It's not surprising that this chant, although not in that iteration, a little more vulgar, started in college football stadiums, where people were violating the 6-foot rule, where people were going, it was a revolutionary act to go to a college football game because you were sitting right next to somebody, you're having a beer, you're being normal in terms of just everyday life. And when that chant started, and why it took off is because every single person who goes to those games is committing a revolutionary act in defying the Biden mandates, and Dr. Fauci's constantly changing suggestions, demands on the way we should live our lives. And so that revolutionary act itself, of just going to a college football game, sparked a whole bunch of people, even in New York, actually it's New Jersey, Rutherford, where the New York Jets were playing, and you had that chant. This is not something that's a Southern phenomenon. This is not a Western phenomenon. This is a Northern phenomenon. This is an American phenomenon. And it is very simply a statement of, we are not going to take it anymore. Much akin to who is John Galt from Atlas Shrugged, saying, I don't know why everything's breaking. Or, and also just, it's a statement of that we're Americans, we're free, and the federal government needs to leave us alone.
And Rick, in your piece, you used a line, you said, I think you started out your piece with there is a feeling of disquiet in the air in America. I think we all feel that, but it's sort of hard to define or explain why. What do you see? Try to put it in your own words.
Human beings thrive on patterns. We fall into habits, as we all know this. We all fall into habits. And when things start getting a little askew, we fall back on patterns that have been successful before. And so we are very, so we like to have a life that doesn't have 10 different things going wrong on it at the same time. We aren't built to be in a chaotic environment, and psychologically, we're not built to be in a chaotic environment. And so, but what's happening in America right now, because of a combination of COVID and the response that the Biden government is doing to try to restrict people, threaten their jobs, threaten their livelihoods, threaten their ability to even go to live. Because of that, people are feeling extremely uneasy. They're seeing store shelves they're not as full as they used to be, even after COVID. They're seeing all sorts of things that are wrong. They're saying they're going to car lots and trying to buy a new car, and they're having to settle for the car that's on the lot rather than the car they want. I mean, that's what we're seeing going from people, from person after person telling us this, that there are so many things that just bother them. It's just not right. It's like everything's a half a beat off. And so when people have that kind of disquiet, they get uneasy. They naturally get uneasy. And when the government does something which catalyzes them to sit there and say, wait a second, you're in charge, you're responsible for this. Yeah, you have civil disobedience. It's going to happen. It's natural. And, but that natural disquiet that everybody feels, I think is absolutely normal. And I would question anybody who didn't feel that way.
Rick, in your piece, you also said civil disobedience only occurs when people decide they have had enough, because at its core, it is a rejection of the government's legitimacy to lead. Is that what we're seeing right now? People rejecting our government's legitimacy? Or how would you explain
57% of the respondents in a poll that came out yesterday said that Joe Biden had benefited from some crookedness in the elections. The Biden administration itself has been claiming a mandate for doing all sorts of policies that are insane on their face in terms of spending, in terms of dictating all sorts of cultural and social policies. And as a result of that, people who are sitting there saying, who is this guy? When did he become king? And the fact that it's being done so often with a 1-vote majority in the Senate and forward vote majority in the House, and such radical change, people are rejecting it. People don't want radical change. After COVID, what people wanted was to get back to normal. And what they're now having shoved down their throat is that normal is not going to look like 2019. Normal is going to look a lot more like 2020 and with some more freedoms, but we're not going to go back to having the abundance that Americans expect and Americans have earned through the work of their labors. And it's just I think so. It's a reaction to that.
Rick, you also wrote, civilization is a very delicate balance of trust, and no one knows when the fraying of the thin cloth that is its veneer rips it completely asunder. I'll let you explain.
Pretty articulate. That's a good line. It's true. I came across this concept. It's not a new concept. It's an old concept, but in my own life, back in the 1980s, when I was a lobbyist for National Rifle Association, and I'd have these anti-gun legislators want to ban guns and want to declare law-abiding citizens to be criminals. And I would ask them, I'd say, when you make the law-abiding into the criminals, how long do you think that they'll still follow the law? And I used to ask the legislators that all the time, people on the left that all the time, because I really wanted to push them to think about the long-term ramifications of turning people who just want to live their lives, who are doing nothing wrong, into the criminals of society and demonizing them. Well, we've seen that writ large in the last year, where, especially with the vaccination, where where the left has particularly been trying to demonize people who are not vaccinated, want to mandate vaccinations, want to take anybody who doesn't follow along and say, yes, Dr. Fauci, whatever you say, blindly, as being somehow a radical who's killing Americans. And just recently, the Attorney General writing a document which allows people to be treated as terrorists, domestic terrorists, for goodness sakes, simply because they are opposed to some school board policies that are getting rather heated because people are talking about defending their own children. And yeah, school board meetings are heated. Local meetings are always heated. They're heated because it goes to what's happening in your household. It's heated because it's what's happening with your own family. It's not something esoteric in Washington, D.C. It's something that's affecting your child, your house, your ability to live. And that's why those meetings get heated. They always get heated. That's the way those meetings always are in terms of local meetings. And if you don't like it, need to get out of the business.
Rick, I want to invite people to comment on our video, to join our discussion. Robert Romano, that's probably our coworker, although there could be another Robert Romano out there. He chimes in with, they are losing the consent of the governed. And I think that a lot of people agree with that sentiment out there.
Yeah, I'd say, it's one of those, once again, that's a thin veneer of society, of civilization. The consent of the governed is is something that's always at risk by a politician. And when a politician goes too far, people reject them and they reject their legitimacy to lead. That's what's happening with the Democrats in Washington, D.C. AOC and her type might, the squad and the various Democrat socialists who've taken over the Democratic Party, people might think that they are leading America into the 21st century with the various things they want to do. But when the people who are going to get thrown out of work don't appreciate it, they're going to say, no, you're not my leader. The people who are having their rights abused don't appreciate it. They're saying, no, you can't do that. And so as AOC continues to lead the Democratic Party further left, the Democratic Party's ability to lead will be diminished even further. And 2022 promises to be a terrible election year for the Democrats, which, by the way, is why they're trying to push so much through now, because they know they may not get the grasp of power for another 10 to 12, 15 years, particularly if they don't change the election laws to make it so they can't possibly lose.
And Rick, I want to change the topic. This is a story that I worked on this week at the Daily Torch here at Americans for Limited Government. YouTube cancels woman in desperate need of life-saving kidney transplant. Americans for Limited Government posted a video interview with a woman named Leilani Lutali. She needs a kidney transplant, and the hospital has told her she must get a COVID vaccine, she and her donor, before they will do the operation. In the video with us, she stated why she has concerns about getting that vaccine or the vaccination. And YouTube removed it, saying that it violated their community guidelines, that there was COVID misinformation. We appealed it, saying that, look, everything she said is backed up by credible sources, the Associated Press or the Centers for Disease Control. What is your reaction to the increasing censorship that's happening by big tech?
Big tech does not have the right to send somebody to die. And that is what they effectively do when they block videos of people who is pleading for their life. This is a woman who is pleading for her life. She is going to die if she doesn't get a kidney transplant. In Colorado, the Colorado Springs Medical Center there that was supposed to do the transplant is refusing to do so because she's not vaccinated. How dare they? How dare they? I mean, it's so absurd. It's so obscene. It's outside of the pale of anything that we've experienced in America. This is the result of this COVID craziness where we've delegated out rationing who should live and who should die to people based upon wanting to keep their certifications from national medical associations. And which they depend on to exist as a hospital. we have now entered a new era in America. It was inevitable after Obamacare passed, but it is a new era, and we're beginning to see what the consequences of that is. And if anybody out there knows of a place where she can get this kidney transplant, please contact us, and we will get the information to her. Please, if you know of anybody you can call, this is a matter of life and death, and the healthcare system is failing her, and she may have to go get it done in another state, in Texas or elsewhere. She's got a donor, a kidney donor. She's got everything set up. She just needs somebody to do the operation. So please, if you have any ideas, if you have a concrete place where they will do this, please let us know so we can forward that information to her.
All right. Thank you, Rick. And now we're going to change gears again. Now what we should be looking at on our screen is a story out of the Daily Wire. Loudoun County schools tried to conceal sexual assault against daughter in bathroom, father says. Father in viral video of school board arrest says his daughter was raped in a school bathroom. This touches all sorts of issues because, well, I'll let you explain it, Rick.
Yeah, the radical left has insisted that we institutionalize transgenderism, which until very recently was considered to be a mental illness, and that we institutionalize it to such a degree that we open up women's and girls' bathrooms to men who claim to be women. And the natural result, the result that everybody predicted would occur, beyond the obvious things like that men competing against women in women's track is not going to be very fair to women. But we've now had what happened. Everybody knew this would happen. We had a boy go into a girl's restroom wearing a skirt, and that boy raped a girl in that school. It was the principal. Everybody knew that occurred. The superintendent of the schools knew it occurred. Loudoun County chose to ignore that. They didn't alter their policies at all. Instead, they transferred that boy to another school where he went on into a girl's restroom and raped another girl. And yes, the father of one of those girls got up before the Loudoun County School Board and was mad. He was letting them have it. And you know what? They're lucky. They're lucky that he was just being angry, because they raped his daughter. They were every bit as responsible for raping his daughter by putting her in this position and changing the bathroom rules in the high schools. They were every bit as guilty as the person who did it, because they enabled it. They made it okay. They normalized abhorrent behavior. So you know what? Yeah, he was mad, and he should have been mad. And he's the one who gets arrested. Every single one of those Loudoun County School Board members should have been arrested for being accomplice to rape. That's what should have happened. Fortunately, Loudoun County has a recall petition for those school board members. So far, the courts are allowing it to go forward. And if those school board members are on the ballot on a recall petition, not a single one of them will survive politically. And that is political justice. Doesn't help that little girl. Doesn't help those two little girls. They might have been high school kids. Doesn't make them little girls, but doesn't help them. And they're going to be scarred for life. But how many more children have to be scarred for life because of this craziness? What are we doing? The fact of the matter is, the reason that the Loudoun County Superintendent of Schools buried this is because it was the exact counterpoint to the philosophical change they're trying to make related to the separation of the two sexes and the attempt to create multiple in-between sexes. It destroys their narrative that it's safe and nothing to worry about. And that's why they buried it. That's why they just transferred the kid and hope nothing else happened. Because if they'd actually done the right thing and reported it and held the kid accountable, you know what would have happened? People would have talked about it. And they would have said, wait a second, this is what we're afraid would happen. And they were afraid their agenda. They put their agenda ahead of their students, ahead of the children, and that can never be allowed to happen. And that is why, by the way, the Biden administration is losing the consent of the government. It's because of that exact attitude about putting their crazy ideas ahead of the interests and the consent of those who are living in America or citizens of America. So guess what? Loudoun County, everybody in America is going to learn about Loudoun County. There's speculation that this will be a disaster for the Democrat running in the gubernatorial election, which is 3.5 weeks away, because he said parents shouldn't have any right to talk about what's going on in the schools.
Rick, that is a perfect segue into our final word here. One of our viewers says, now how do we stop the nonsense?
Yeah, all politics starts at the local level. And I was in a meeting today, I can't talk about too much because it's private, but with some Senate staff, and they were talking about stuff they were trying to do. And the fact of the matter is, it was aggressive for the US Senate, but it was infinitesimal in terms of what needs to be done. And this was related to the vax mandate. And so while I'm going to help them, but it doesn't solve the problem. And the way we solve this problem is in your local school board, your local officials. Go to your local sheriff. If you live in a rural county in particular, go to your local sheriff. The FBI cannot enforce the CRT effort that they're doing to try to make parents into domestic terrorists. They cannot enforce that without the local sheriff, the local police chief going along with it. The local police chief and the local sheriff can say, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Get your local officials to stand up with you. If they won't, then make certain that they're not your elected officials next time you get a chance.
Thank you, Rick. And Marvin Grace puts up what a lot of us are thinking, if we're not saying it. What a disgrace. They should be fired. And thanks to all of you for watching today. Thanks for being in this fight with us. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook. We also are on Rumble. Americans for Limited Government. We would love to have you in this fight with us, and we appreciate everything you're doing. And Rick, any final words I'll give to you?
America is the greatest country in the history of the world. It was conceived in liberty. It was conceived in freedom, an idea that individual freedom superseded governmental control. And when government becomes too large, becomes out of control, the consent of the governed is given freely. This is not a call to revolution. It is a call to doing what's needed in your own community to push back. And if you're in a position where it makes sense to engage in civil disobedience, like maybe some pilots from Southwest Airlines have done, consider the options. We have to cause there to be a real pushback against the mandates that are coming down. And it's Americans out in the real world, not sitting here in the Beltway, out in the real world are going to make it happen. Politicians follow. They do not lead. People lead. Politicians need the leadership from the people all around this country. So go out and talk to your local school boards, talk to your local county commission, talk to your city government, talk to your mayor, talk to your sheriff, and let's take back control of America from the bottom up.
All right. Thank you. And thanks to everyone for being with us today. We'll see you next time on an Americans for Limited Government live stream.
Thank you.